revenues. And if we were able to maximize the impact of women-owned businesses and have women achieve the same average revenues as firms owned by men, this would go up to 7.9 trillion added to our economy. These numbers really show us that women in business saw opportunity presented in the obstacles posed by the pandemic and really decided to start businesses at record levels. This is a lot of resilience that is so admirable in women business owners. But also since September, we have seen rulings in favor of constitutional challenges to bedrock programs that stood for decades and ensured progress in breaking down barriers to opportunity for women, BIPOC entrepreneurs, and others. First, it was affirmative action, then 8A, then the Fearless Fund, Hello Alice, and then many more. We really don't know what's next, but we do know that we must create pathways to capital, pipeline to opportunity, and partnership and collaboration for women that will be capable of weathering any legal storms that may come on the horizon, especially if we want to sustain this incredible small business surge that we've had, that women have been driving. And this is really all about resilience, as Erin alluded to earlier. We see some cloudy skies ahead, but we also see the silver lining, and the sun is definitely shining through. When it comes to lending, SBA-backed loans to women-owned small businesses are up nearly 70% under the Biden-Harris administration, totaling $5.1 billion in lending to women-owned businesses in FY23. When it comes to contracting, women-owned small businesses, WOSBs, received $30.9 billion in federal contracting dollars in FY23, up from $28.1 in FY22, and accounting for nearly 5% of the FY23 total eligible dollars. This marks the highest dollar amount ever awarded to WOSBs. And when it comes to creating an inclusive entrepreneurial ecosystem, at the end of March, SBA announced the selection of 17 new WBCs, 13 of which will be hosted by established minority-serving institutions across 10 states. The WBC program will also open centers focused around critical issues for women entrepreneurs, including contracting and capital. To delve more into detail on how this council is mobilizing around these initiatives and working to drive the conversation ourselves, and to make sure that we come up with our 2024 policy solutions, I really would like to open the floor to the three fearless chairs of our subcommittees. First, Council Member Roberta McCullough, who chairs our subcommittee on access to capital, will begin, followed by Council Member Selena Rogers-Dickerson, who will speak on what's happening in our recently restructured Access to Capital Opportunity Subcommittee from her perspective as the subcommittee chair. And finally, Council Member Kathy Cochran, chair of the Inclusive Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Subcommittee, will provide updates on the subcommittee's work and where they intend to go next. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chair Lajavardian. My name is Roberta McCullough, and in addition to serving as the board chair of the Association of Women's Business Centers, AWBC, and Senior Vice President of Operations for Institute Capital, I have the esteemed privilege of serving as chair of the Access to Capital Committee for NWBC. Since the council last convened in January, the subcommittee has undergone a bit of a shift. Previously, the subcommittee has focused on both capital and opportunity, and due to some restructuring you will hear more about soon, the subcommittee, this particular one, will now focus exclusively on capital. As a leader at the Community Development Financial Institution myself, I look forward to delving more deeply into capital, an evergreen and persistent theme of the council's work. This change will hopefully ensure the council can develop even more robust recommendations around the foundational issues of how women finance their businesses and how money plays a role in sustaining the recent small business surge we have all witnessed. While capital as a topic of conversation is almost always on the table, there are some emerging issues for progress that the council has looked at more broadly. These include exploring forms of financing for women other than loans and equity investments, leveraging alternative lending criteria that expands access to capital, making the right financial choice for one's business and personal needs, ensuring tax incentives and benefits that reach women owned businesses, and considering fair pay and company valuation as a factor impacting starting, scaling, and succession. Through our subcommittee meetings, we have gotten to hear from experts and leaders in this space about a selection of issues. Earlier in the year, NWBC's own Erin Hustings gave a thorough presentation on potential impact of increasing the use of tax incentives for women entrepreneurs. She also briefed council members on findings from the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center's research on pay, ownership, and valuation. Most recently, the subcommittee was joined by Andrew Moss, the director of the Minority Outreach at the Office of Comptroller of Currency, OCC, in the U.S. Department of the Treasury, who spoke about how the Project REACH is working to create programs relying upon more inclusive definitions of credit worthiness. The subcommittee is looking forward to taking the learnings from these and future engagements and incorporate them into impactful policy recommendations that will help women get dollars they need to drive business growth and development. In the meantime, one of our chair's signature initiatives is the upcoming Instagram Live series featuring inspiring business owners. I know I cannot wait for that series to get started, since I am sure there will be plenty of thought-provoking conversations on access to capital just waiting to be shared. NWBC also recently commissioned research on the recent surge of Black and Latina women-owned businesses. This research aims to uncover how key pandemic provisions allow them to flourish and outline what will be necessary to sustain this surge. But for now, I will allow Council Member Selena Rogers Dickerson to uplift what has been happening in our newly reorganized Access to Opportunity Subcommittee. Selena?
Good afternoon. Thank you, Roberta. As chair of the Access to Opportunity Subcommittee and as president and founder of Sarcor LLC, an engineering design and project management firm, and Celine LLC, a diverse business solution company, I have the joy of helping shape the subcommittee's work on a topic that means a lot to me: access to opportunity. In the time since the council last convened, the Women in STEM subcommittee has evolved into an Access to Opportunity subcommittee. For a bit of background, in the past, the Access to Capital and Opportunity subcommittee had focused on capital and contracting. The Inclusive Entrepreneur Ecosystem subcommittee had focused on women in business to connect resource partners and work to overcome barriers. But the Women in STEM subcommittee fell into a gray area. It is narrower in terms of industries and in broader terms to potential topics than our two other subcommittees. And while it is certainly a timely topic, we wanted to be responsive to the present and proactive about the future when it comes to our subcommittees. To better understand how women entrepreneurs are getting access to the billions of dollars of investment being made by the Investing in America agenda, much of the STEM and STEM adjacent fields, to determine whether they have pathways as far as workforce and information sharing to seize this moment, and to learn where contracting and other federal opportunities fit into all of this. The council decided to shift its Women in STEM subcommittee to instead encompass what we are now calling Access to Opportunity. There has been a lot of news and changes in the world of opportunity when it comes to entrepreneurship, but few things that have risen to the surface for this subcommittee include understanding how to improve the Women-Owned Small Business WOSB Federal Contracting Program when it comes to the user experience and relative to other contracting vehicles. Secondly, ensuring equity-driven programs are resilient in spite of legal challenges. Advancing entrepreneur education. Another is guaranteeing there is no wrong door to accessing government programs, grants, and contracts, including when federal money is administered by states and localities. Strengthening outreach and awareness of federally funded technical assistance, grant funding, and loan opportunities amongst women business owners. And changing how we think about the grant, contract, and solicitation process to ensure accessibility to women business owners, starting with the notices of funding opportunity and requests for proposals themselves. As part of our subcommittee meetings, we have learned more about the number of topics from experts and thought leaders. For example, Allison Evans from SBA's Office of Investment and Innovation joined us to share more on the Growth Accelerator Fund Competition, GAFC, along with the Regional Innovation Clusters Program. Sam Lee from SBA's Policy, Planning, and Liaison OPPL, and Tammy Havley from Redefine Main Street both presented fascinating data on current trends in federal contracting. And Laura Maristani from Prospera Insights shared more about the intersection of workforce development and entrepreneurial training. The subcommittee will build on the lessons learned from these other connections to develop policy recommendations that lower obstacles that lie in the pathway of opportunity. For the rest of the year, that will be influenced by 2 upcoming roundtables that we plan to hold, one virtual in June on certification and one in person in July on solicitations. On the research side of things, the subcommittee will also benefit from finding the ongoing research we are conducting on women's STEM entrepreneurship, as well as new project on federal funding. Until then, I will let Councilmember Kathy Cochran report out on the work of the Inclusive Entrepreneur Ecosystem Subcommittee.
Thank you, Selena. As chair of the Inclusive Entrepreneurial Ecosystem Subcommittee, and as a small business owner myself and someone who works with organizations and teams that support women business owners, I'm grateful to have many opportunities to explore what it takes to engage with entrepreneurial ecosystems designed with women in mind. Since our subcommittee last convened, a number of notable conversations and topics have arisen both in the news media and in the work of this subcommittee. Some of these included understanding how paid family and medical leave, as well as childcare programs, can support the smallest of small businesses, changing the narrative around vital support services to focus on economic benefits, fostering a sense of inclusion and entrepreneurship amongst business owners from different backgrounds and in different industries, and considering how public-private philanthropic partnerships can strengthen supports for women entrepreneurs, and cultivating sustainability from a growth perspective amongst resource partners and technical assistance providers. With that in mind, this spring, the Council submitted overviews of its findings and recommendations around expanding access to paid leave and childcare services to congressional bodies, searching for bipartisan solutions. We know that helping to meet owners' and employers' caregiving obligations is difficult and costly for micro businesses and solo entrepreneurs, and have encouraged our policymakers to prioritize flexible supports for these populations. To support our learning around these topics, we invited Jessie Yankee, Vice President of Programs for the Association of Women's Business Centers, to discuss why women's business centers are essential assistance providers to women entrepreneurs and how they can be better resourced to achieve their mission. In the hopes of increasing our awareness of issues and challenges for changes when it comes to strengthening the network of resource partners and technical assistance providers, we will be holding a virtual roundtable in August. Later this year, the Council will release research findings related to women's entrepreneurship in rural and tribal communities as well. These and the continued efforts of the subcommittee as a whole will enable us to develop impactful policy recommendations with the potential to make the small business sisterhood more sustainable, supportive, and synergistic. NWBC celebrates and appreciates our host agency SBA's determination to help women and underrepresented entrepreneurs grow deeper networks by continually strengthening its public outreach and stakeholder engagement. I'd like to hand the meeting over to Council Member Leslie Lynn Smith to introduce speakers from SBA, who will describe some of the agency's key initiatives and to ensure that small businesses connect to new opportunities and robust support ecosystems. Thanks.
Thank you, Kathy. It's nice to be here, everyone. That is a perfect segue into the opportunity I have, which is to introduce these 5 powerhouse women from the SBA who are all working to expand opportunity and outreach in support of women's entrepreneurship. These leaders recognize the untapped potential women in business represent to our society, economy, and communities, and persistently toil to ensure women in business are aware of and empowered to pursue all of the opportunities and resources that are out there. First, we have Christina Hale, Assistant Administrator for the Office of Women's Business Ownership, OBO, which oversees the Women's Business Centers program. Prior to this role, she served as the Associate Administrator for the Office of Communication and Public Liaison, where she provided executive leadership and direction to OCPL, operations, and nationwide programs. She has more than 20 years of executive experience working with business leaders in government and civil society. After Christina, we'll hear from Deidre Henry Spires, Senior Advisor in the Office of the Administrator, who is joining us today to speak about childcare access initiatives. Ms. Henry Spires is a top advocacy and policy strategist and a former professional staff member for Human Services and Income Security for the Senate Committee on Finance. As a former member of the committee's health team, she is credited as one of the architects of the Affordable Care Act, and we thank her for that. Next, we have Jessica Reeves, who serves as the Director of Public Engagement at SBA. Through this role, she builds internal and external relationships with key stakeholders to help small businesses get the resources they need to start and scale. Before joining SBA, Jessica worked for Voto Latino by developing and managing key partnerships and programs that help advance the organization's mission, empowering Latino and Hispanic communities across the country to go out and vote and stay politically engaged. Our 4th speaker will be Brittany Sickler, the Director of Investment and Innovation Ecosystem Development within the Office of Investment and Innovation at SBA. She is responsible for building... Yikes. If we could all go on mute so that everyone can hear us, that'd be amazing. Thank you. She is responsible for building networks of stakeholders across the country to improve access for small businesses seeking federal R&D and patient capital funds, creating strategic connections via the Regional Innovation Cluster Initiative, the Growth Accelerator Fund Competition, the Small Business Investment Company Program, and more. And finally, rounding out our speakers from SBA is Skye Bork, who serves as Policy Advisor in the Office of the Administrator. There, she provides strategic insights on a number of small business priorities. She had previously served as a Senior Business Analyst at McKinsey & Company, where she supported the implementation of public health and economic development programs for federal and state government agencies. With that, I'd like to first invite Assistant Administrator Hale to speak.
Hello, everyone, and thank you so much to the Council, Chairwoman Seema. So deeply appreciate your leadership and all the work that all of the Council members are doing, leading for women during this really fraught and difficult time to be a woman in our country. Let me also please bring you the greetings of Administrator Guzman. I know Council members, you think of her as a colleague and friend, and we all admire her as the leader and the voice of small business on the President's cabinet. So please know that she says thank you as well. And also let me extend her wishes to you all for a very happy Pride Month as well. But I've been asked to talk about the network of women's business centers. We don't have much time, so forgive me for being brief in my remarks, So I'll give you a little background. At 30,000 feet, our network of 152 women's business centers, they're thriving, they're growing, and they are diagnostic places where anybody can walk in. You might not know what you need, but you find out you need a mentor. You need some assistance drafting your business plan. You need help accessing that critical loan so that you can purchase the building where you're growing your business. It just runs the gamut of support. Sometimes they're specialized. There are women's business centers in California that have business lines that are particular to supporting the Vietnamese diaspora community of women as they pursue business ownership and their American dreams. And it could be just something very general. You're going to hear more from Senior Advisor Deirdre Henry Spires in a moment about some of our childcare initiatives. But these are really places to welcome, to support, to demystify, to really find out what women entrepreneurs need in every stage of their business journey and to provide that support. And they're very, very successful in doing this. We're about 35 years old as a program. We have never had as many women's business centers as we do now. We're in every state. We're in Puerto Rico, Washington, D.C., and we're about to extend our geographical reach as well. And just this past March, we opened 17 new centers, including 12 at MSI HCBU hosted facilities. So we're building on that momentum. And here, perhaps maybe even today, but in the coming days, certainly by Monday, we'll be announcing some additional funding opportunities to award up to 40 more Women's Business Center grants. We're trying to work a little bit smarter and more creatively and certainly build on the small business boom that has been part of the Biden-Harris administration. So now closing in on 18 million new business applications to open up fledgling small businesses. And that 18 million has been led by women and people of color. We understand the stakes to be higher than ever before, that sense of urgency to provide support, to continue to build on this incredible success that we've been enjoying these past 3 years. So to do that, we are focusing on 4 new areas. Traditionally, our women's business centers have been bricks and mortar based, but we are committed to finding clients where they are, wherever they are, as Administrator Guzman often says. And as she has certainly led the way in ensuring that equity is at the heart of everything we do at the SBA. So part of this will be 4 new interest areas. So the first will be extending our geographical reach to the U.S. Virgin Islands for the first time in our hopes to open at least 1 center there in USVI. We are going to be making a call for traditional women's business centers. So if somebody has a good idea, we want to make sure that our aperture of application is wide and very interested in new creative ideas and also traditional ideas of working the already successful women's business center model. But 2 additional areas. 1 will be focused on federal contracting. So that will be in particular to help women entrepreneurs to pursue their WASB certification. So helping them to perfect that application so that that process can go as smoothly for them as possible. But then once they get that certification, how do you procure those first contracts? So what are the secrets? What are the nuances? What do you need to know? And how can we help? So they'll be focused in that line of business, particular to federal contracting. And one that I will leave to Senior Advisor Deirdre to talk about more in depth in her few minutes of time as well. That's a focus on childcare. And first, let me thank you to the council and to all the hard work and the really useful work that you have done to put this focus on childcare. These new women's business centers will be focused on supporting fledgling, growing, and scaling childcare businesses. So whether you're just starting your own home-based childcare center, whether you're ready to buy your building, wherever you are, whether you're ready to franchise, we want to be there to help, and specifically help as it relates to childcare. And something new and unique to all of these 4 areas is that we're looking to expand our reach as well virtually. So for the first time, applications that are based on a virtual model will be eligible for award as well, in particular because we're hoping to reach women starting businesses, military women, military spouses who have, by the nature of their work, they might be moving around a lot. So geographical challenges, that this would be more flexible and useful for them. Rural women who might have to drive hours and hours or just find that transportation piece for other reasons really difficult to get to a bricks and mortar office. We want to be able to better reach them, make it more convenient, easier to access all of our services, our free services. And then finally, as well, reaching Native women and areas of Native lands. And we think it'll be particularly useful to those groups, perhaps, to have this virtual option. So we're really looking forward to having some virtual applications this cycle. So they should be posting soon on grants.gov. We'll have until mid-July or so to respond. We're going to have some open meetings so that everyone can ask questions, hear about the technicalities, how to apply, expectations, just hash out all of that, and then move forward by the end of the fiscal year to add to our growing body of 152. So we hope to close out the year certainly over the 180 mark, but we're very ambitious and we would like to see as many as 190 or so, because we are absolutely determined to meet women, to meet entrepreneurs where they are, wherever they are. So with that, I just want to say thank you and be on the lookout for more news from us. And I'd love to turn this over now to Senior Advisor Henry Spires. Deirdre?
Thank you, Christina, our wonderful Assistant Administrator for the Office of Women's Business Ownership. First of all, congratulations in advance on the NOFOs that are coming out very, very soon. It was I was going to say Herculean, but we'll say an Athenian lift, and you've done a fantastic job. And I'm proud to have partnered with you in this work. Chairwoman Seema, thank you so much for the wonderful invitation. In respect to my colleagues who are coming behind me, I'm really going to take literally 2 minutes. Those of you who remember, there was a certain news broadcast that said, if you give us 30 minutes, we'll give you the world. Well, if you give me 2 minutes, I will give you the child care updates. We are led by a phenomenal leader in Administrator Guzman, who has so leaned into business ownership, to women in the space at all levels, and then to the needs of women business owners that are mothers, our aunties, are everything. In those ways, it leads me to think about Executive Director Tanae Dolphin and just lift her up with love and with prayers, and to say to Erin, thank you so much for stepping in such a big and bold way at a difficult time to make sure that the work continues. So just want to say I see you and appreciate both of you. Okay, that said, great news. You heard from Assistant Administrator Hale that a child care NOFO is on its way by Monday. We hope the latest. This is your work. This is the work of women's business centers all around the country who encouraged us, who said there is a market and it can be done. This is your work. This is the work of your advisement and in numerous reports talking about the importance of childcare. And we need your partnership to make it successful, to make sure that every corner of this great nation knows that this opportunity is available and that they get these applications in, that they get them in well, and that the work is supported. Words of encouragement for you. We know that around the country, there are philanthropies who are watching this quite closely and that want to partner at this time. This is an amazing time led by Biden Harris in that CARE EO it has really enlivened and invigorated all sectors in business communities, in care communities to lean in and get ready to work hard. I am maybe queuing up the speaker of the hour that you'll hear from later from NASDAQ Foundation, because they are at the forefront of this work. Okay. Beyond the NOFOs, we also are delivering on the things that you may have heard in March 25th, we did a childcare symposium right around the time as the Women's Business Summit. So there was a lot of excitement in March. So the NOFO was one deliverable on its way. We also said that we're going to bring the childcare conversation directly to lenders. We are working with our friends in the Office of Capital Access. Selena will be really happy to hear that in about a week, we will go to the lenders themselves. We're going to go to the Opportunity Finance Network Conference. We are going to meet with about 30 or 40 CDFIs, lenders in the space that have an interest in childcare. And we're going to lean even harder into why they should, why this is a prime area for lending and partnering with our business owners. And then lastly, well, penultimately, so two more things. The guide on how to start a childcare business. Get your minds ready. Get thinking about the great guides that you know that are out there. We're looking at ways to partner with hopefully NWBC and others on really thinking about how we put out an opportunity to help create for the SBA the definitive how to start a childcare business, so that it no longer is a you live and you learn moment, but it's a learn and you do excellently moment. It's a not having to repeat mistakes. It's never having to keep your taxes in the shoebox, although we don't despise small beginnings, but we want to show a more excellent way from the very beginning. And so much good work is out there. We want to pull all that work in and produce something for the SBA that is open source and available to everyone. Lastly, I just want you to know that we're thinking innovatively. It's hurricane season coming up. We'll be working with our Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. One of the areas that we've been asked to lean into by our friends at HHS and in the White House is childcare during disaster. What happens when you've lost everything and you have no care for your kids? What happens if your business was a childcare business and it's now been harmed in a disaster? What happens to a whole community? So as we approach hurricane season, we're going to really look at ways in which we can gather that information, know where we can bring help to bear, and how we can even work in that space. Thank you for the time. There are some fantastic colleagues behind me. So with that, I will end and kick it over to my good friend and colleague, our Director of Public Engagement, Jessica Reeves. Jessica?
Thank you, Deirdre, so much for your kind words and that warm introduction. So grateful for your partnership in so many of the things that we do. I am really excited to be here with everybody. Wanted to share a little bit about what we do at the Office of Public Engagement. And what we try to do is really strive to fill information gaps by engaging trusted stakeholders and in the small business community, from advocates to chambers to resource partners, like many of you here. And as you saw, there's an amazing lineup of subject matter experts from a number of our amazing teams and offices. So what I'd love to do is maybe cover a couple of things that I don't think are going to be covered here, starting with some of our recent announcements from Office of Government Contracting and Business Development. And one of the projects I wanted to highlight here was our Empower to Grow relaunch. So the program, formerly known as 7J, Management and Technical Assistance, that provided eligible disadvantaged U.S. small businesses with free courses, tailored trainings, one-on-one support to get into government contracting and increase their competitiveness, has been relaunched as the Empower to Grow program to help small businesses, small and medium businesses become procurement ready for federal, state, and local government contracts. With trillions of dollars available for opportunities, what we really want to do is encourage more of our small businesses, especially women-owned small businesses, to take the plunge to look into opportunities for procurement. And what we want to do, what Administrator Guzman has made it a priority to do, is to streamline this existing program and a number of other programs to make it easier for folks to access these opportunities. So some of the updates and some of the improvements made to the Empower to Grow program now include customized one-on-one training tailored to the specific small business needs, networking and matchmaking events with agencies and prime contractors. We've relaunched the Federal Market Acceleration Program, or FedMAP, which is a 3-month government contracting training led by business development experts that also now features one-on-one coaching, and as well as a federal contractor masterclass with new tools, techniques for small business bidding, including some additional information for folks just starting out. And then finally, multilingual counselors, fluent in Spanish and other languages. So we really would love to encourage folks to check out some of those opportunities. There's also new tools for 8A firms to access $2 trillion in state and local bidding opportunities. So feel free to reach out to me if you'd like more information on that, or simply go to our SBA.gov website and look into government contracting and the Empower to Grow program. So next, one of the things that I would love to highlight are some of the improvements in access to capital. I think a number of folks here have already emphasized the importance of access to capital for small businesses to really grow, be able to expand. So 2 things from that team that I would love to highlight are our streamlined online tools. So one, our My SBA loan portal, which now houses all of your loans, information, various opportunities in one place, including a new and improved lender match tool. So lender match is a popular tool that we have had for many years that connects small businesses to the finance community. Each month we get about 50,000 requests for capital coming through lender match, and that connects individuals to nearly 1,000 lenders, including 257 community financial institutions. So that way folks have a chance to connect directly and hear from and connect directly to the opportunities for capital. The streamlined lender match tool now improves this platform for all stakeholders. It has additional improved interface capabilities and access to equity partners for small business owners, and additional borrow information for our third-party data validators for lenders. So it's better for both lenders to easily access information, and then for small businesses to compare various access to capital opportunities. So one of the additional improvements here, now a borrower has an opportunity to match with investors, which I know you'll hear a little bit more from our Office of Investment and Innovation later, but there are a lot of opportunities for entrepreneurs to now find that those investors through our lender match tool. Additionally, all of the matches are now in one place. So before a small business submitted a request to a lender match and waited for the loan offer through emails, now all of this, all our small businesses can actually see, compare, and contrast the lender matches in one platform, allowing for direct comparison. And then overall, it's just much more clean, modern customer experience. Streamlining customer experience has been at the forefront of Administrator Guzman's agenda and mission, and we've really seen some big improvements. The last thing I'll flag from our access to capital work, just this week, the SBA announced a new plan to unveil government-backed lines of credits of up to $5 million for small businesses, which is a new working capital pilot that will be coming out in the coming months, designed to be more flexible, more attractive to both lenders and borrowers. But really, so many times our small businesses need to have that flexibility to access a line of credit. And what this working capital line offers is an annual fee with maximum interest rates based on the prime rate plus 3% to 6%, which would be roughly about 12 to 15% today. But either way, really working hard to ensure that our small businesses have everything they need to succeed. And we're so thankful to partner with all the folks here to ensure that our women-owned small businesses especially have access to all this information. And as I said, really here to try to help fill the gaps for our small business owners. So I'll end there because you have a lot of additional great content. And please feel free to reach out if there's anything we can do to be helpful. And I think I might hand it off to Skye next. Is it me or Brittany?
I think it's Brittany next.
I am ready. Thank you so much,
Take it away,
Jessica.
Brittany.
Thank you, Leslie. Appreciate it. It is wonderful to be here with everyone today. So thank you so much for sharing the time. I'm coming from SBA's Office of Investment and Innovation, where we are leading the SBA's programs, providing U.S. small businesses and the startup community with access to financial capital, networks, assistance, and research and development, R&D funds to build and grow small businesses and innovative startups. So we have some exciting information and updates for you today on how we're doing that. I'm going to go ahead and start off with how we're building up the entrepreneur support organization ecosystem through funding information and how that relates to help women, small business owners, potential entrepreneurs around the country. First of all, our Regional Innovation Cluster Program, the RIC program, which began back in September 2010, that promotes and supports clusters geographically concentrated, these concentrated groups of interconnected businesses, suppliers, service providers, and institutions in a particular industry or field across the US. These RICs are networking hubs. They're convening resources, helping folks navigate the funding, procurement, supply chain opportunities within a specific industry. And now we have in our portfolio ag tech to photonics, defense to cybersecurity, pharmaceutical, energy, and more. These groups are providing things that you might normally see in our support programs, resource partners. They're doing one-on-one counseling and technical assistance, group training, networking events, customer discovery matchmaking, showcasing these events for products and services. They're all tying back to those unique technology and industrial focus areas. While we on our team know that our RICs, our clusters, are making a difference in the lives of many women-owned small businesses, we are also in the midst of trying to expand that understanding and share that with the community. Over the past 9 months, we have undergone a complete redesign of all of our program metrics collected by the clusters. These updates have a focus on underserved businesses and entrepreneurs, including women and women-owned small businesses. And additionally, the updated survey instruments include questions related to the cultural competency of the clusters and trust built between the clusters and the small businesses they serve. So we're happy to have that in process and be able to share that in particular with you all as soon as we can. Just to give you a quick highlight, our fiscal year 22 evaluation of the cluster program did already demonstrate 24% of participants self-reporting as a women-owned small business. 7% of the respondents were an SBA certified women-owned small business or economically disadvantaged women-owned small business. And as a side note, our cluster program will be expanding this year with an upcoming solicitation. Next up, our other program that we run in the ecosystem support organization ESO space is our Growth Accelerator Fund competition, which you did hear about from Allison Evans on my team. I wanted to highlight that back in our 2023 competition, as well as in our recent stage 1 of 2024, our winners across those two cohorts really did demonstrate such a solid commitment to underrepresented and undercapitalized audiences, including women in STEM. We've seen through our initial reports of the 2023 cohort how they have been providing mentoring and coaching sessions, technical assistance, the group training, business strategy, pitch events for so many women across the country. And so Our 2024 Stage 1 winners are about to compete for Stage 2 funds. I can throw some links in the chat as well, but we make that public in terms of all of the organizations that have been part of those winning kind of consortia. The Growth Accelerator Fund competition at its heart is about connecting partners so that there are stronger resources and relationships leading to an increase in efficiency in the services that entrepreneurs across the country are receiving. And last but not least, in this realm is our Federal and State Technology Partnership Program, FAST, which specifically focuses on providing SBIR, Small Business Innovation Research, assistance in underrepresented states and to underserved communities, including a focus on women, folks in rural areas. That is a funding opportunity currently open, and it'll expand access across the country to deepen that expertise and access to understanding that wide variety and increasing number of SBIR funding opportunities. I want to move on as well to mention how OII has a stake in capital access as well for women, but specifically through our flagship patient capital program, the Small Business Investment Company Program, SBIC. If you did not see this in August of last year, we had a great update, and that's the SBIC Investment Diversification and Growth Rule, representing the most significant changes to the SBIC program since the early 90s. As it relates to accessibility, these reforms that you'll see there do seek to significantly reduce barriers to program participation and diversify the funding for small businesses, startup, and the investment management communities. We do hope that these changes will increase investments in not only underserved communities and geographies, but also capital-intensive investments and investments in technologies that are critical to national security and economic development. So we have more information that's being released on sba.gov coming up. Beyond the entrepreneur support organizations that we support, both licensing and regulating those small business investment companies, we also support two related federal advisory committees, two FACAs. One is the Investment Capital Advisory Committee, and they're trying to increase awareness of the SBIC program and those related reforms to increase those investments in underserved communities. We're trying to expand the number of investors in SBIC funds with a lens towards the challenges and opportunities of raising capital. And also they'll be making recommendations to the administrator on ways to further expand coverage and dollar allocation in small businesses and smaller enterprise that have historically been underserved. That committee kicked off the end of last year. Our second advisory committee focuses on invention, innovation, entrepreneurship, and they have two subcommittees as well with focus areas on the entrepreneur support builder programs, how SBA is investing into the networks and organizations that then provide support, as well as how we're able to help and assist through commercialization activities and through the SBIR program. Of note, and also related to our work and how passionate we are in OII for this, we are the representative for the Council for Inclusive Innovation with USPTO. The SBA administrator is a formal council member, but they did recently release their national strategy for inclusive innovation, and that does feature information not only on some of our SBA programs, but much on the interagency work that exists, showing not only some of the positive improvements, but as well as some of the gaps that still remain, especially for women STEM entrepreneurs. And then lastly, our team has participated in Invent Together, an initiative which has created free resources on the Inventors Patent Academy, again, with an eye towards how women are able to receive more support in the invention landscape. So OII, we are a strong partner across the other SBA program offices. We have that focus in the research and development and also kind of follow-on capital spaces, and have always appreciated our work with NWBC and look forward to that continuing. I believe.
Thank you, Brittany.
Thank you, Leslie.
We're going to move to Sky now.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for that summary. And Sky, if you can close us out, we would be ever so grateful.
Great. Thank you very much for including me in this. Super excited to be here. So investing in America, what is it? Why does SBA care? And why should you care? So Investing in America comprises a series of key pieces of legislation: American Rescue Plan, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Inflation Reduction Act, and the CHIPS and Science Act. And each in their respective areas are making significant and potentially life-changing investments across the country for small business. As a brief summary, Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, over $1 billion investment to rebuild our country's built infrastructure, as well as increase access to clean drinking water, high-speed internet, and tackle the climate crisis. Then you have the Inflation Reduction Act, significant investment in clean energy, climate change, through financial incentives like tax credits, rebates, other incentives aimed at cutting emissions. CHIPS and Science Act, created to boost American semiconductor research, development, and production to ensure that the U.S. leads in the technology that will form the foundation of everything, from cars to defense systems. So we built our Investing in America resource hub to ensure that small businesses get a piece of the pie and experience these investments and are able to grow their businesses alongside any large business. So I'd like to spend the most of my time walking through the resource hub itself, in the hopes that some of you may use this or share it with people that it might be relevant for. Sharing screen briefly. Get the right window. Okay, great. So I believe you can see my screen now. So we've landed on the SBA website. If you navigate over to the learning platform and scroll down to Investing in America, you'll see our hub. Got an awesome welcome video from the administrator. And then we have opportunities here organized by topic area. So if you are a small business that operates in home repair and construction, there's a series of really important rebates and tax credits that may be relevant for you. If you do any kind of government contracting or subcontracting, there's been a huge flow of funds across industry areas that may be relevant for you through the bills. And then on the manufacturing side, there are some grant programs that may be relevant for your small business. And this is continually being updated. So this is just the first iteration. To walk through one example of what the resources look like, you'll have details on why this matters and how to identify contracting opportunities, as well as the detailed ways that SBA can help your small business take advantage of the Investing in America opportunities. If we take contracting with the Department of Transportation, we talk through why it matters, whether you might be eligible, and then specific pathways to access the contracts. And then what it looks like to get a certification, financing, surety bonding, various SBA resources. And you'll also find in our homepage a series of success stories that tell the story of how small businesses have benefited from Investing in America. And we hope that we can include some of your small businesses in the future as well. In terms of getting this out and in the hands of the right small businesses, we've been working with our partner agencies at DOE, Commerce, Transportation, and others to train our field offices on these topics and ensure that they're able to reach the right small businesses in the right geographies, as well as working with Jessica and her team to get these hands out and in the hands of the right people through partner organizations. We're always super open to feedback and collaboration. If you think there's a topic area that should be added or a group that may benefit from hearing about this resource. Just to take one example of why this might matter for you, if you're a small manufacturer, there are hundreds of millions of grant dollars waiting to be distributed to help you improve the energy efficiency of your plant. So there's dollars on the table that your small firm should get access to and should be aware of. And hopefully our resource gets you one step closer. Always happy for feedback and collaboration. And that is it from my end.
Hey, thank you, Sky, and thank you for the presentation. That's very, very helpful. Thank you to all of the powerful, impactful boss lady leaders that we've heard from today who are supporting women entrepreneurs across the country. At this time, I would like to invite council members who lead organizations that support women's entrepreneurship across the country to give us any updates about opportunities, news, or events that they are hosting. And I think those will come from Roberta, Pam, and Shakina. But anyone else who has updates, please feel free to jump in.
Thank you, Leslie. This is Pamela Prince-Eason. I am the president and CEO of WeMake, which is the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. And I'm pleased to share that we are very excited that just last evening, we were able to launch a commercial, which showed up on CNBC, that talked about the value of women-owned businesses in the economy. And that showed up yesterday at 7:44 during a very important show that got a lot of attention. So I've been hearing a lot of feedback on that. And it talked about the challenges for women in the economy, but the resources that are available through WeBank and organizations like all of us who are on here. So I wanted to make sure that everybody was aware of that. You can see a replay of that if you'd like to at our website, which is webank.org or wbenc.org. Additionally, we are being featured in a longer segment on many of the PBS type channels for the next 6 months. Again, focused on the value of women and the economic impact that we make and the resources available. And that is a show called Empowered with the actress Meg Ryan. And so I wanted to let you know that that will begin showing now that this commercial has gone out. And so if you'd like to see the full length Empowered episode with Meg Ryan, you can also get to that through the webank.org website. So in addition to that, I just wanted to let you know that WeBank is keenly interested in all the great resources as well as the new WBC funding that will be coming out that was talked about by Assistant Administrator Christina Hale and everyone else who presented. And we're also keenly watching the environment to ensure that each of the potential attacks on the great work done to support all women, that we are taking a stand to continue to advance equity and parity for women. So thank you all very much. And thank you to the National Women's Business Council for the tremendous work and leadership that you're doing, as well as our SBA presenters today.
Thanks, Pam. Roberta, would you like to share any updates?
Absolutely. I want to share a couple of events that are happening in North Carolina that support women entrepreneurship. One, we host at the National Institute of Minority Economic Development, host 4 women's business centers. And on June 20th of this month, our Women's Business Center that is headquartered in Durham will host their annual conference that, in conjunction with the state of North Carolina, that focuses on digital equity as it relates to women entrepreneurship. And we have the distinct pleasure of having for that and for our conference, for our national conference, which I'll get to in a moment, we're going to have various members from the state that focus on digital equity as it relates to small business and particularly to women entrepreneurship. It is going to be really, really great. And if you're in the Raleigh, Durham area or in the state of North Carolina, period, please, it's not too late to register for that because I think you'll find the information valuable. The second event is our economic networking conference, which with that particular conference is focused on digital equity as well. And with that one, we have the distinct pleasure of Associate Administrator Christina Hale that will be attending, as well as the CEO, Corinne Hodges of the Association of Women's Business Centers. And I believe we've also confirmed for the administrator to Isabella Guzman to be there. So we, even though this is an organizational event, we always stay very focused on women entrepreneurship and those matters that relate. So that is in August 5th through the 7th. You can check it out on our website, but I hope that people who are nearby can attend.
Amazing. Thank you, Roberta. Shakina, I understand you may have something to share with us as well.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. I want to talk about 2 of the pillars underneath the Center for Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership at Babson College. Just came back from our research conference. If there's anyone that's interested in partnering or learning more about our research institute, which is called the Diana International Research Institute, please send us an email at cwel@babson.edu. And then secondly, I would like to announce our Black Women's Entrepreneurial Leadership Program applications are launched. So if you know of anyone or you are a small business that is looking to expand into the procurement space, the Be Well program is for you. And again, you can email us at cwel@babson.edu. Thank you.
Thanks, Shakina. Appreciate you. You'll see that there's a slide suggesting we're going to go through comments and questions. We've decided, given the time constraints with members of our or colleagues from the SBA, that we will do that at the end, and that will be moderated by my colleague, Samantha Abrams. And in the interest of getting to our next speaker, I thank you all for your comments and hand the floor back to our chair. Seema, it's all yours.
Thank you so much, Leslie. We believe data should drive decision-making, which is why we feel so fortunate to be able to have a special guest present on their research on the lived experiences of women entrepreneurs. Nicola Corzine serves as the founding CEO and executive director of the NASDAQ Entrepreneurial Center, a nonprofit committed to growing inclusion and access for entrepreneurs worldwide. Established in 2014 with the support of the NASDAQ Educational Foundation, the center brings together a coalition of nonprofit universities, corporations, and capital allocators, to support under-resourced entrepreneurs on two fronts, offering free educational incubator and mentorship-focused programming and resources to more than 75,000 entrepreneurs to date, and driving research that identifies the obstacles and solutions to achieving equitable entrepreneurship. Council members will be able to ask Ms. Corzine questions after the presentation. But first, please, let's welcome Nicola Corzine.
Thank you so much, Seema, and council members and NWBC at large. It is such an incredible honor to be here with you today, sharing a little bit about the research and hopefully supporting the amazing work that has been going on by all of you in this credible village of supporting women business owners. I think the earlier indication of the Athenian tasks that have been overcome thanks to all of your work is really incredible and sets the stage, I hope, of an informed dialogue that we'll get to have on our new majority, our women business owners in this country. By way of background, our work and research in this space has been now many years in the shaping. Starting in 2020, we had the honor, thanks to Wells Fargo Foundation, of coming in and seeing how our new majority of women business owners were sadly being left behind in areas relating to pay, ownership, and valuation. And while at the time there was sadly still a dialogue that said, well, is that a real problem? Like, how bad could it be? The reality is, if we leave our women business owners behind, then we leave all of us behind. At that time, there was some startling facts, which I would imagine many of you may know at this stage. Our women business owners were paying themselves $53,000 less per year on average than our male counterparts. They were suffering valuations at 70% reduced rates compared to their white male counterparts. And most importantly, we were not seeing the ownership outcomes that they ought to have through all of this. So because we believe that no future is written at this stage without people coming together and better understanding the lived experience of our women business owners, we sought to understand with collaborators, including Fair Pay Workplace and Penn State University, what was going on behind the scenes that was setting those course of actions. We looked at a number of factors during that time that has led to our most recent research, the ones that I'm going to be sharing with you today. And in that note, I want to say, above all else, there are silver linings out there, as there always are when we deal with our women entrepreneurs. And I'm excited to be able to share and shape those silver linings today and hopefully encourage you to be able to continue to take action on ways that we can support our amazing women business owners who are building a better nation for all of us. So let's get started. Our research looked at trying to identify both at a qualitative and a quantitative layer the unique pain points that our women business owners are finding in this country. To do that, we looked at two large bodies of data. The first was we independently surveyed and evaluated 860 women business owners from our own data set. As you heard, believe it or not, our community has actually grown now to over 95,000 founders worldwide. And I'm delighted to say that 54% of them are women business owners. No surprise there. In that finding, we are going to talk about what we saw in that data set, but we also went in and were able to evaluate with GoDaddy's Venture Forward study, which is a twice-a-year study, one of the larger data sets of its kind that looks at micro entrepreneurs and aims to understand what is occurring for them across regions throughout the United States. And there were 1,723 women business owners that participated through that lens. So that'll give you an indication of the size of the data that we were able to find. And we were really looking for three key outcomes there. One, we wanted to identify new actionable insights. Two, we wanted to inform support and strategies for our women business owners. And three, most importantly, we were hoping to share learnings with policymakers and influencers who could create a better, vibrant outcome for our women business owners in this land. Excuse me. So as we went through this, we identified positive factors that contribute to their success. And there really were four that we're going to talk about today. Number one, cash flow break even. Just to slow down and say, why does that matter? Well, in entrepreneurship, controlling your own destiny is perhaps the most important thing. You can't control your own destiny, sadly, until you have enough cash to be able to feel that you can make informed decisions and choices about your business. That inflection point typically happens around the point of cash flow break even. So you'll see a lot of the data that I'm going to present today is around that inflection moment, that independence moment, that critical moment. The second is speed to cash flow break even, because sadly, the single denominator that none of us, as much as we can do incredible Athenian tasks, are ever going to change is how many hours there are in a day. There are and will always be 24 hours. So to that end, the faster and more efficiently we can drive successful outcomes from our women business owners, the better off we all are. The third is the average monthly revenue. This is an important factor because we don't want our women business owners falling below levels that are critical for their own success. And the last one is ease of access to capital. Obviously, clearly a critical environment, which we've already spent a lot of time learning from council today on the amazing work that is being understood and driven there. So number one, let's get to it. What is driving speed to cash flow break even? This is perhaps my favorite insight. I had the honor of coming from an entrepreneurial background myself. I'm the daughter of an immigrant entrepreneur. I moved stateside when I was a little girl. I did 3 startups, 1 internationally, 2 US. And this was never talked about. It was never, ever talked about in that domain. And then I moved over to venture, where I spent 10 years in venture, and we never talked about it in venture. And yet what has emerged in this data is that the fastest path to cash flow break even is the time and the year in which our women business owners pay themselves. Now think for a second of the counterintuitive effect of that, because the popular mythology might prevail. You don't pay yourself anything. You go as long and as hard and as fast as you can, and only then can you be successful. But what we are finding more than ever before is that pressure point of actually paying themselves a livable wage has a critical effect on the speed in which they achieve break even. Now, the challenge in this, as we can get to, is who has a vested interest in making sure that this discussion point is talked about. Historically, not capital allocators, and historically, not support organizations. So my fast invitation for all of us today is to remember to encourage our women business owners to see what is possible and see the change that occurs when they pay themselves a livable wage sooner and do not put off that critical effect. We have a free workbook online that addresses this, written by expert advisors, which we would encourage all of you to potentially use as a sound guide. It's your pay plan. And we think the more open conversations we have with our women business owners about their financial certainty and their financial viability will change valuations that benefit every community across this land. All right, let's flip to the next slide because it's another fun one that is not often talked about or thought of when it comes to cash flow break-even timelines. Mindset, sorry, it's one back, mindset. Now, the reason that we like this one so much is that 9 of the top 15 variables that improve cash flow break even are related to mindset. The confidence that they have in their future success, the ability for founders to feel that they are supported in their communities, the level of confidence they have around the future economy. Why does this matter? Well, because again, when we think about things that are controllable, these are all things that each and every one of us shape in our narratives, in our conversations every day. Slowing down to check in on founders about how they're feeling, our women business owners, on how they're feeling about these elements has a material effect on the ways in which they achieve their cash flow break-even and independent status. So as we think about the art of what's possible, again, I just love to invite every single person here to realize mentorship matters. Slowing down to check in and share and shape information and intelligence flow on what is driving economic outcomes in this country matter. That information flow is creating more material effects for our women business owners, and most importantly, their financial sustainability and outcomes of growth. So we want to be able to make sure when we're thinking about support organizations that were talked of earlier, that these environments are shown and shaped up in a very important way for our women business owners. All right. Another favorite insight and outcome for me on this, because I think, again, it breaks down the mythology in some ways that has been shaped around entrepreneurship. Age and experience. Experience is a good thing. What a shock there. But perhaps not from the standpoint of looking at what it means for our women business owners in this country. It actually is 34 to 54 that is producing the highest speed of performance for our entrepreneurs. And it's not a surprise, right? 10 years or more of living out, dealing with problems, solving problems. These are having a material effect in the growth and the higher performance of our women business owners. So age in this environment is something that does need to be discussed and supported. You are not too old to start meaningful growth-based businesses. In fact, quite the contrary. Here's to the generational opportunity that comes from experience. And here's to realizing that those are our entrepreneurs that we get to seek out and support in really meaningful ways. They are breaking through at alarming rates of being what we call wonderfully breakthrough businesses. What I mean by that is, again, a popular myth is you need to have at least 1 or 2 failures behind you before you could possibly succeed in entrepreneurship. In this age bracket that we're looking at here, the 34 to 54-year-old environment, 54% of our women business owners in this bracket are building breakthrough businesses out the gate. That means first time building meaningful high growth businesses with this level of experience. So let's seek experiences differently and support and celebrate those amazing entrepreneurs with that decade plus of experience coming out. All right, let's go to the next slide. Ease of access to capital. This is one that we sat with for quite some time. As you probably heard at the start, we have the honor of being both in the policy, practice, and research lane. We don't do research without sort of seeing challenges that are existing within inside of our community, and then we go deep to try to understand what is happening there and hopefully begin to identify ways that we can reduce those barriers that are affecting our under-resourced founders. In this instance, and again, not surprisingly, access to capital continues to be one of the biggest challenges, sadly, our women business owners have faced, though certainly there is a lot of momentum and movement that is happening in their favor and continuing to unfold as we've heard even today. But around this, one of the interesting areas that I think has often been overlooked is really where our women business owners were able to make their first sale. And why does that matter? Well, it matters because when we think about procurement opportunities, the ones that have been discussed today, or we think about certifications, or we think about how our women are able to persist and pivot businesses from, be it brick and mortar, into online or vice versa, that critical inflection point of where and when they made their first sale is driving the ability for them to have ease of access to capital. Also in this vein is the long-term business ambition. Going back to the GoDaddy Venture Forward study for a moment, this is a favorite nugget that will forever stick with me. Everybody starts as a small business. Everybody in this country starts as a micro entrepreneur. That's a common truth we can all agree to, right? 30% of those that are deemed in that category aspire to be high growth, high scale founders. It is within them to have that dream and that motivation, even as they are labeled or identified in a certain way to start. So what is critical for us as we think about this and accessing capital for those types of founders is that understanding that long-term business motivation is a driving force for their ability to secure capital at the right time. Back to the 24 hours in a day moment, the other thing that we'll talk quite a bit about today is that the first 5 matters. In some ways, not dissimilar to our children. I've got 2 little boys at home, so I often think of that. But the first 5 years of a business owner's life really matters. Our North Star at the center is that we want to reduce failure rate that typically happens for under-resourced founders at the 5-year cliff. And we want to improve it by an order of magnitude. We don't want any under-resourced founder to be left behind in that moment. But as we think about securing long-term business ambition and making sure that that's matched up as early as possible to the formation of capital that can drive and support that success for those founders, it really is an imperative. It's not a nice to have, it's a must have. So when we think about the must haves and getting that help to those founders earlier on in the journey, it can actually eliminate a lot of the friction points in what kind of capital should I go out after, dilutive, non-dilutive. So forgive whether or not a founder is aspiring to take in high-risk capital or go for more of the traditional safe forms of capital. All of this is predicated on understanding their ambitions. Yet when we think inside of ourselves, how we ask or frame up questions, motivation is often the thing that is left behind. So another key takeaway that I would invite us all to think about today is how do we start to detangle and understand more deeply the motivation of the founders earlier on in their capital journey to be able to drive more efficiency and awareness and understanding about the decisions that they are making on a day-by-day basis to get them closer to securing the capital that can give them wings to soar. Because when we do that, again, I will come back every day of the week and say, that's when communities rise and thrive. Capital is there in support of our founders above all else. Our job is to ease the friction to get that capital to the right sources of founders as early and as efficiently as possible. Okay, so let's go to the next slide now. Another of my favorites. I call this the reverse pressure correlation slide. And this goes exactly to what Deirdre was talking about when it comes to the care economy and the criticality of this. Despite popular myths, again, there is an incredible outcome that happens when we see our women business owners have pressure of performance that is happening within inside of their living situation. Whether that is coming from having a mortgage, whether that is coming from caring for little ones, caring for elders, being a part of a community where they are supporting others. These are positive effects that actually elevate entrepreneurial success. They don't distract. They don't take away. They aren't limiting factors. That's not an entrepreneur that we should rush over in support of someone that has nothing to hold them to entrepreneurship. And it makes sense, right? When we think about this, of course. Why do we build? We build because we have a belief in bringing something forward innately inside of us, but usually because we want to support others in that journey. When we have that pressure, when we have that desire to see a better life for us and for others, it is what persists, yes, on the great days, but also on the hard ones. So again, I would just encourage us as we think about the questions that we ask and our maybe unexpected bias that might live behind those questions, to realize that there is a wonderful reverse correlation to the pressures of caring for others or having financial obligations that drive entrepreneurial success. And it's not just our words, it's the data that shows up. All right, one last part, and this is an important one. And again, I think one that can shape opportunity differently for us when we think about entrepreneurship. Cash flow. Cash flow has often been thought, I go back to the start of the pandemic and seeing the crisis that affected so many unfairly in that situation that had no reserves. And we've always known that, right? It used to be a little bit of a joke when we would hear assured from well-intended experts, well, if you have 6 months of operating cash, then you can withstand any market crisis. And we'd see the forlorn look that lived inside of our women business owners and our under-resourced founders and be like, if only, if only I could just not worry about payroll that was happening on Friday, let alone think about months of discretionary cash flow. So what we wanted to evaluate in this environment is really getting a little bit more laser focused on where can opportunity happen when there is actual cash flow that an entrepreneur has at their discretion. And there was a couple of really interesting things that emerged. If you'd have asked me, I would have bet much more to like, well, a founder that is going to be most optimal for scale and growth and having healthy outcomes is going to be in that 3 to 6 months discretionary cash. And while this slide is small, and hopefully anyone that's interested, please do let us know. We're happy to share this out. What you're seeing here that's really unique is that 3 to 4 weeks, just as good, if not better, than 3 or more months. Now, if you ask me to put a plan in front of a founder to get them to 3 months of discretionary cash flow, more than getting an entrepreneur to 6 months of discretionary cash flow, I think we can all work more comprehensively on how we do that. And also to encourage discussions around margins or strategic decisions when 3 weeks can really drive economic opportunities and outcomes differently for our under-resourced women business owners. So 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, more, great. But if we're talking about a strategic insight takeaway from this, let's just get our women business owners as much as possible to having that discretion over cash flow of at least that amount, All right, I've got a few final takeaways because I know time is short here and I feel like we could have just the best robust conversation about all of it. Our women business owners are a trust in their community, and they also more often than not look to learn from others that they look up to. Wonderful. This is good news. But one of the elements that did emerge back to the access to capital and ease of capital conversation is as a result of being what they see, more often than not, our early stage companies are being structured as an LLC, a limited liability company. Why does that matter? Well, an LLC has wonderful opportunities from a tax perspective, from a speed to startup perspective, but it also is a limiting factor when it comes to access to capital. To detangle or restructure into a corporation that can take in different types of capital is both costly and expensive. So when we come back to thinking about that 30% with a motivation to high growth, high scale types of businesses, that is not correlating to the types of structures that we're seeing emerge with our women business owners. So what does that look like? Perhaps there might be more opportunities for all of us in the support organization layer or beyond to have more of a workbook associated with understanding structure begets types of capital opportunities. It doesn't limit your choices forevermore, but it does signal different factors, and it does become quite costly in the experience and the exposure rates of those environments. So the structure does matter. And the sooner that we can have conversations, meaningful conversations with women business owners around the structure that is best optimized for their vision and values of success, the better off we are, rather than just letting it be sort of, well, how did you structure? And I guess I should do the same. Number 2, we talked about this a little bit, but if a business is greater than 5 years old, there is less chance that they are going to be a growth-based business. In fact, if you're 3 to 10 years old, you have to have like 5 to 9 employees to be able to be on that track. So what we want to encourage all of us to understand here is that pressure of time is real. And for whatever reason, the momentum that you have in the first 5 years, the ability to supercharge opportunities, to get the credentialing, the support, the mentors, the network effect is catalytic in years 1 through 5. So for our resources that we can avail to those founders who are in that sweet spot, we are going to be able to support them uniquely. The other element here is getting to an employee-based business for those that are aspiring to get to growth-based. We see this differential all the time, and I'm sure anecdotally many of you have, where the worry and pressure, again, of payroll is real. And having been there, I can definitely feel and understand that. There is nothing like having to lay off teams no matter what. And in that moment, when we think about the opportunity of getting them to an employee-based firm in that first 5 years, supporting our women business owners with having a plan, a confidence plan, a good, better, best plan on employee growth is really critical. And working through mindset challenges that understandably exist around the pressure of payroll is a critical outcome. So as a takeaway for all of us, I'd just love to encourage, we know that employee-owned firms and a timeline that can grow and scale businesses is a real critical effect. Business motivation matters. We've talked about this one at length. Slow down. I would encourage all of us. There's nothing I love more, and I'm sure all of you do, understanding the origin story of a founder, what drove them to start, despite all the reasons that they should have opted out. They're doing something hard. They're doing something really, really hard. Why? What is that motivation? Giving them that ability to just have time and space to share that story and reconnect with the why actually drives business outcomes. Back to it's not a nice to have, it's a must have. And then last, but definitely not least, this did emerge from our work with Penn State University, and I think it is one that is so critical. Access and worry about food insecurity is real for our women business owners. In the first years of study that we had done through the Wells Fargo Foundation report, it was a startling and alarming and very concerning element that raised that our women business owners were scoring lower than the national average in food insecurity. And so I think as we realize what's at stake and the communal effect of good health for all of us and good health for our women business owners above all else, we need to appreciate and understand that the pressures of inflation and others are still coming hard and fast at our women business owners. And so all the resources and all the additional support that we can give out there to understanding and supporting their overall health will drive the overall health and the vitality of our communities and this great nation. It has been such an honor to be here with you today. The last slide will simply give you a little bit more background on the work and the research. I really do hope that this is the starting point of many wonderful conversations that we'll have the opportunity to partake in. And most importantly, I deeply appreciate and thank all of you for contributing to better outcomes for our women business owners. It truly takes a village in entrepreneurship, and we are so, so grateful that you are part of that village. Seema, thank you, and I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you so much, Nicola. This was such incredible and insightful information, and really looking forward to working more together. I'm going to open it up to see if our council members have questions. You can just unmute yourselves if you want to ask questions.
No questions, just immense gratitude to Nicola. This is so resonant, and I know many participants on the call will say the same. We wish we could see your faces and hear your voices to the response, but I hope that this brings a renewed feeling that there are folks like us who are out here in the streets working on behalf of you. And this public meeting is so critical because we do get to hear from you. And when you share your stories, it helps to inform how we're curating these conversations and bringing exceptional leaders like you, Nicola, into the space. So thank you from the bottom of our hearts. I'm like really emotional with some of the things that you shared, but so much resonance as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samantha. I guess I will pass it on to you also to ask for public comments. But Nicola, thank you again. This was really resonated with all of us. I know with everybody else online, and you know we're all here to support each other. So thank you so much. Now to you, Samantha.
I guess the thing here that we can all say and agree to is that we have to keep moving. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep doing. Women continue to carry this economy and be bold. And in the face of adversity, we are starting businesses at some of the most fast pace in recent history. And it's not surprising that only 36 years ago that we have been in existence. That only 36 years ago, we needed a husband, a brother, or a father to co-sign for us as we are seeking capital. But there's just so much change in 36 years, and there's so much more that we're going to do in the next 36 years. Thank you so much, Seema, again, to the entire council and to all of you who have stuck here with us online, on the Zoom, listening, learning, sharing. We're so grateful. My name is Samantha Abrams. I am a proud council member. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have a background in corporate, so being able to be entrepreneurial and take all of those learnings to be entrepreneurial has been critical to my success and taking a bet on myself. And I know that's the same that you do. During the public meeting, we really look to hear from you, not just during the public meeting, but throughout. And your voices are so vital to this national conversation. And believe it or not, this is not just a national conversation, it's a global conversation because people are aware of this incredible council and the work that we're doing. And it impacts women globally. People, governments are looking to us to take note to see how they can start their own council. So please know that everything that you share, we are taking note. We're collecting the information, we're collecting the data, and we are trying to figure out how we really take that and have the issues that are so important to women business owners and turn that into strong, sound policy recommendations that will live in perpetuity. We have quite a bit of questions and comments on various issues. And for the sake of time, we can't go through all of them, but we have selected questions and comments that are basically thematic. And really folds beautifully into some of the presentations that we have heard from and the presenters we've heard from today. So one of the questions, of course, will come around accessing affordable and low-cost loans and also accessing grants for women. So one person wrote, "High interest rates are preventing me from borrowing capital to expand. Are there any new SBA loan programs that I can essentially take advantage of?" So I want you to know, all of you, but particularly to this writer, we continue to uplift and elevate and underscore that financing continues to be a major barrier for so many women, and this should not be. And we're asking loudly and boldly for more non-dilutive funding to folks who are in the patient capital space to look at women founders, particularly Black and Brown, and really think about how you invest in not just the business, but the venture. Nicola touched on that a little while ago. They're actors throughout the financial system, including SBA lending partners. And unfortunately, so many of those partners and lending institutions, they continue to be constrained. The borrowers continue to be constrained by high interest rates. So that is something that we're continuing to have conversation around and think very boldly. I know that's a word that's overused, but we really are moving boldly in how we disrupt this space. The PPP initiative created a blueprint that we can essentially build upon and provide for forgivable loans at scale. So the purpose of that is to how do we take that PPP model and templatize and learn from the successes and challenges that we have in deploying PPP and expanding PPP, a program like PPP. Special purpose credit programs also are proliferating thanks to the leadership of the Office of the Controller of Currencies and their Project Reach. My colleague shared earlier, we were in a Zoom call with Director Andrew Moss and just learned so much and was able to really serve as a brain trust to how they continue to expand that program, expand the reach of Project Reach, right? How do we share more about this? I think for us, all of us, we want to talk more about how we make sure that you are provided the information, you have accessibility to that so that you can continue to grow. More institutions are providing financing to businesses without credit histories or collateral by relying solely on the cash flow, which is, again, a really differentiated approach in recent times. Our government continues to directly back companies, especially those developing scientific and technological innovations. So please Google or whatever search engine, SBIR, STTR programs if you're not familiar. And if you are familiar, I want to ask a personal challenge or favor. Share with someone who may not be aware of these programs. They are truly transformative. But again, how do we share information and share with each other and serve as a resource? And we just continue to urge stakeholders to advocate more for more creative solutions like this. Again, how do we disrupt this space and intentionally support women, including myself as an entrepreneur, so that we can continue to stabilize and grow our economies? Our stakeholders wrote to us with questions and suggestions around the all-important government contracting program and process. NWBC has had long sought and embraced policy recommendations to improve its positive impact on women entrepreneurs and people considering entrepreneurship, particularly in this space. We appreciate all and will consider recommendations that agencies reduce past performance requirements for proposals submitted by certified businesses. It is also critical that business owners see and believe that the certification will significantly help to earn business. You just don't want to go through that certification process and then it's sitting there for a while and you have no ability to actually utilize it. So we see that and hear you. This week's ruling against the legalities of the Fearless Fund programming for women entrepreneurs of color is simply alarming. Members of the public asked how SBA is carrying out certification and supporting contracting set-aside programs. The certification process for 8A firms has changed because of court-imposed constraints. But the WOSB's program stands and we will continue to support it. We are working to substantiate the need for it and develop sound recommendations that strengthens its effectiveness. And please know we are working on this. We are thrilled to have gotten so many questions from members of our public who are looking for professional development and want to provide it to peers, and from people who want to get more involved with NWBC. We encourage stakeholders to seek out support from SBA's community-based resource partners, especially WBCs, and consider applying to be a resource partner as well, if we have resource partners listening in. We'd also love to hear from you, members of the public, with your compelling stories, and those compelling stories help to inform our policy ideas and how we are really crafting policy recommendations. So please don't be shy. Share with us. Nothing is too out there. Actually, we want the out there ideas and thoughts and comments from you. It really helps us to get thinking and being more audacious in what we are presenting before government. Please feel free to get in touch with us by emailing us at info@nwbc.gov. We really draw the inspiration and wisdom from all of our participants and our participation at conferences, presentations, and other public gatherings. Finally, I'd like to respond to some of the great questions we received about policy trends and priorities and future opportunities for women entrepreneurs. Stay tuned. NWBC is writing policy recommendations, as I mentioned earlier, as we speak. And those recommendations has to be decided and voted on later this year during our September public meeting. So stay tuned on that. There's also strong momentum and a desire to broaden access to supports that help entrepreneurs balance work and life. National policy may be inspired by successful innovations at local, state, and state levels. We heard a little bit about that around childcare earlier. The fact is that women and women of color particularly have led the boom of business startups, and it's a testament to the positive and social and economic change and the necessities to have a shift in resources toward helping solo and micro businesses sustain and mature into stable enterprises. Again, if there's anything that you haven't shared with us and would like to, particularly as we close out this meeting, please email us at info@nwbc.gov or feel free to connect with each of our council members. I will hand it back over to our wonderful chair, Seema Lejavardian, to close us out. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Samantha. Council members, really thank you for providing such leadership during this incredible conversation. To our fearless NWBC team, really thank you, Erin and Ariana. This has been a difficult and really busy time. You've just done an impeccable job for this, putting this together. And we are thinking of our fearless director, Tene, as she wasn't able to be here today. Christina, Deidre, Jessica, Brittany, and Sky, really thank you for sharing your time, energy, expertise, and all this incredible information as we strive to advance women business enterprise and really secure equitable economic opportunity for all. I mean, it's just so exciting to see all the new programs, from lending opportunities to childcare to many more, and knowing how much our fearless administrator is doing so much work in that region to really level out the playing field. Nicola, thank you for giving us a deeper look at NEC's ongoing research, which will help inform the development of our policy recommendations. They were truly insightful. And audience members, thank you for sitting through this presentation and connecting with the events, and really for the really enlightening questions you asked us. We're really all in this together, and we can't do this work without you, without being plugged in, with all the things that matter to you. So please follow us online, subscribe to our newsletter, visit our website, and, peruse our annual report and stay in tune for more information. And we're going to have many more meetings. And as Samantha said, if you have any questions or ideas, please do email us at info@nwbc.gov. Our door is always open. I know we covered a lot and there's so much more to cover, but we have a time limit, sadly, on this. And we just really look forward to taking everything that we heard today, all the revelations, and just continue with them as a stepping stone to develop our policy recommendation for this year, which will continue to build on throughout the summer, and we will propose them in September. Until then, thank you. Please keep in touch and have a wonderful rest of your day. Bye, everyone.